We're live.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Durham Planning Commission. The members of the Durham Planning Commission have been appointed by the City Council and the County Board of Commissioners as an advisory body to the elected officials. You should know that the elected officials will have a final vote on all the issues that are before us tonight. Tonight's meeting is being held virtually using the Zoom virtual meeting platform. In this virtual meeting platform, the public participants do not have the ability to talk or be seen on the video by default, and to maintain meeting decorum and a discernible record of the meeting, the chat function has been disabled. We will have public hearings on the 3 cases in front of us this evening. Speakers will be given the ability to speak at the appropriate time during the meeting. If you've pre-registered, we'll call your name, we'll give you the opportunity to speak. If you did not pre-register, we'll give you the opportunity to raise your hand. And so in the Zoom meeting, you can either hit raise my hand, or if you called in, you can press *9 on your phone to raise your hand. We'll call on you, we'll unmute you, and we'll give you the opportunity to speak. We ask that you give us your name and your mailing address, and then we'll let you know how much time you have for your remarks. If you'd like to call into tonight's meeting, you can dial 1-301-715-8592. Finally, all motions are stated in the affirmative, so if a motion fails or ties, the recommendation is not favorable. Thanks again for joining us. May we have the roll call, please?
Chair Busby. I would like to state that we do have a new commissioner here with us tonight, Mr. Bruce Harrod. We have 2 other new commissioners that were appointed by the County Board of Commissioners that were not able to join us tonight. They were not able to get their required swearing in prior to the meeting, so they will join us next month. They are not on the roll call because of that, because they technically cannot participate without the swearing in. So I'm going to do the roll call now, and you will notice it doesn't have all 14 members. Commissioner Amandolia.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Chair Busby.
Here.
Cameron.
Here.
Cutright.
Here.
Durkin.
Here.
Commissioner Harrod.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear that. Here.
It's okay. All right, got you. Lowe.
Here.
McIver. Morgan.
Here.
Cease.
Here.
And Williams, Carmen Williams. I think Commissioner Williams was going to join us via phone. I don't know that maybe she has not joined yet. So she might not be here just yet. So let's give her a few minutes to join.
That sounds good. Thank you. Commissioner Harrod, welcome aboard. It's great to have you join us, and I'd love to offer you a moment to introduce yourself.
Okay. Don't know what you want to know. I'm Bruce Harrod. I live at 2217 Tampa Avenue and been in Durham County since 1976. By training, I'm an engineer, but I hope I have some more general knowledge than that. I love Durham, and looking forward to serving on the commission.
Thank you. Great to have you with us. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
We will move to the approval of the minutes and the consistency statements from our June. Ms. Smith, sorry,
I'm so sorry. Commissioner Williams is on the call. I just wanted to make sure you knew she is present.
Great, thank you. Approval of the minutes and consistency statements from our June 8th, 2021 meeting. And if there were any issues, I didn't see any, but if anyone caught anything, please raise them now. If not, I'll accept a motion for approval.
So moved for approval.
Second.
I heard Commissioner Morgan make the motion, and was that Commissioner Cameron that was seconding? Great, okay, thank you. We'll have the roll call vote, please.
Amandolia.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Busby.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Cutright,
Yes.
Durkin.
Yes.
I'm not going to call on Commissioner Harrod since he was not participating in that last meeting to vote on these minutes. Commissioner Lowe,
Yes.
MacGyver,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
and Williams.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Adjustments to the agenda, Ms. Smith? I know we want to at least move up the resolutions, but anything else?
Staff does not recommend any additional adjustments other than moving the recognition and resolutions for former Vice Chair Armeer Kenchen and former Commissioner Tom Miller to the beginning ahead of public.
Great. If everyone is good with moving the resolutions to the beginning and then running through the rest of the meeting, I'll accept a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker moved, Commissioner Cameron seconded, and we'll have the roll call vote, please.
Okay, so this is for the adjustments to the agenda. Amandolia,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Busby,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Cutright,
Yes.
Durkin,
Yes.
Harrod,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
MacGyver,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Grace, do we know, is Armeer with us? Was he able to join?
Let me look and see if he's on the participants list. Just looking through real quick. I don't see him, and I know, looks like Chris is looking as well. I don't think he's here yet.
Okay.
We did send him an invite, though.
Yeah, please do. And I know I see Tom, so I'm going to start with the resolution.
Chair Busby, can I just do my legal ad statement
Please.
real quick? This is super normal for Commissioner Miller. He can sit through that. I just wanted to state for the record that all of the advertisements and legal requirements were carried out in accordance with state and local law and are on file. The affidavits for those are on file in the planning department.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So, Tom, thanks for joining us. It's good to have you back, albeit briefly tonight. But we talked last month. Obviously, we're so grateful for your many, many years of service. I'm going to read the resolution from the Planning Commission to honor and thank you for your time and efforts. And then I'll give you the floor for a moment. One last time. This is a resolution in appreciation of Thomas R. Miller, whereas Mr. Thomas R. Miller was a member of the Durham Planning Commission from March 4th, 2014 through June 30, 2021. And whereas Durham Planning Commission and the citizens of the city and county of Durham have benefited from the dedicated efforts that he displayed while serving as a member of the Durham Planning Commission, and whereas this commission desires to express its appreciation for the public of a job well done, now therefore be it resolved by the Durham Planning Commission that this commission does hereby express its sincere appreciation for the service rendered by Mr. Miller to the citizens of this community, and that the clerk for the commission is hereby directed to spread this resolution in its entirety upon the official minutes of this commission, and this resolution is hereby presented to Mr. Thomas R. Miller as a token of the high esteem held for him, adopted this 13th day of July, 2021. Grace, remind me, do we need a vote now? And then, okay, so I'll accept a motion and a second.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second. All right, Commissioner Morgan moved, Commissioner Lowe seconded, with an assist by Commissioner Harrod, and we'll have the roll call vote, please.
Okay, here we go. So this is for the resolution. Amandolia,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Busby,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Cutright,
Yes.
Durkin,
Yes.
Harrod,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
MacGyver,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
and Williams.
Yes.
I'll have to admit I'm having to reprogram myself because I'm used to calling these names in order, and every time I get to the K and the M, I'm all messed up. So,
Well, congratulations, Tom. I was worried about the vote, but you pulled it through.
Did a lot of lobbying this last week.
Lots of emails. No, but Tom, as the dates noted, you served for a very long time on this commission.
I know most of you think it was even longer. Seems that way.
The floor is yours for any final comments.
I just want to say that it was a very great privilege to serve the people of Durham as a member of the Planning Commission, and it was a very great pleasure to serve with all of you. And to you and to the staff, I wanted to let you know that all the time during my service, I learned and continue to look to learn from the first meeting until the very last. And I'm grateful for that. And then finally, I just wanted to say that to encourage all of you as Planning Commission members to make yourself available to the people of Durham when they reach out to you, respond to their messages, go see the properties that you're going to vote on. And listen to the people. It's their town, it's their Durham. And while they may not be sophisticated on planning issues, they know what they're talking about. Their investment in their lives and the places where they live is worth, in my opinion, all the money that some applicant or developer may have put into their property or project. So keep that in mind. And I wish you all the very best as you go forward. I think Durham is really lucky to have so dedicated a body as you all.
Thank you, Tom. We look forward to seeing you around town.
You certainly will, of course, unless you see me first. All right, very good. Thank you.
Good job.
Grace, has Armeer been able to join us yet? Or Chris?
I don't think we've seen him. I've asked the staff to keep an eye out, and if he joins, I will let you know, and we'll work him in as soon as we can. I don't see him yet.
Okay. And please do let us know if he joins, and we can move things around. I also would just, if he's not able to join us tonight, I know we've done this before, I'd like to wait and do it with him in person, and I can try to reach out to him and confirm that he can make it next month.
Sounds good. That'll be fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, with that, we're going to move to our first case this evening. This is case Z20042, and it's 2104 and 2011-12 Ellis Road, and we will start with the staff report.
Just one moment. There we go. Can you, everyone see the screen? Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Chair Busby, Planning Commission members, good evening. Danny Coulter here with the Planning Department. This is request for zoning map change Z2000042. It's 2104 and 2112 Ellis Road. It was received from Jonathan Gindis of Stackhouse Development LLC for two parcels located at 2104 and 2112 Ellis Road, totaling 4.86 acres. The site is within the county's jurisdiction and in the suburban development tier. The applicant proposes to change the zoning designation of the site from residential rural RR and residential suburban 20 RS20 to commercial general with a development plan, or CGD, for a self-service storage facility with a maximum of 140,000 square feet. The future land use map, or the FLUME, is designated as research and research application. If the zoning is approved, staff recommends a change to the FLUME to designate the property as commercial. From the context map, it shows the site is, of course, is zoned RR and RS20. The adjoining zonings are RR and RS20 to the east And then you have Science Research Park to the south. And then also above that, I think you've seen this before, is the Ellis Road Commercial. It's zoned CG with a development plan opposite of Ellis Road. From the map, you can see that the site is wooded. It's got a mix of hardwood and pine. It's adjacent to the NC 147 off-ramp and also Ellis Roads. And of course, it's a single-family development on the adjacent parcel to the east. And adjacent to the south is industrial research and development facility. And although the aerial doesn't show it to the north, the commercial development is already under construction. It's been cleared and is under construction. The existing condition sheet indicates that it previously noted it's a wooded site. There's a riparian buffer to the south of this site on the site. The proposed conditions for the site that indicates the building envelope, the parking envelopes, required project boundary buffer to the east of the site. And this site is, of course, oriented differently, with north being this way. And of course, they also show their commitments for tree coverage to the south and their project boundary buffers, as I mentioned, and also with their access points. Summary commitments for this key and text and graphic commitments. They're limiting their uses to only self-service storage and permitted accessory uses. They're also limited to a maximum of 140,000 square feet of building area. They also are committing to construct an exclusive eastbound right turn lane on Ellis Road at the site driveway prior to CO. They're also providing a minimum of 5 feet of additional asphalt for the full frontage of the site along the south side of Ellis Road prior to CO. They're also committing that metal shall not be used as a primary building facade material on the Ellis Road frontage. They're also committing to a minimum of one distinctive architectural feature from a choice of storefront windows, corner tower element, or parapet walls for the main building facade. Staff analyzed the proposed development for consistency with the comp plan policies and determined that staff that if future land use map change is adopted, the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan, including the future land use map is in the public interest and is consistent with adopted ordinance and policies, except that policy 2.2.2E, suburban tiered commercial development, is not being met. However, as the commercial development across opposite Ellis Road, when it would be completed, this policy would be met as the commercial node would then be established. And staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Coulter. We will open the public hearing. We had 3 individuals who signed up to speak. They are all, I believe, part of the applicant team. And it's Patrick Biker, Robert Shunk, and Eric Rifkin. So I will hand it over to the applicant team, and then we'll see if there's anyone else who would like to speak as well.
Good evening, Chairman Busby. Can you all hear me okay? It's Patrick Biker.
We can. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Coulter, do you have the PowerPoint that our team sent over? Mr. Shunk sent you. Could you pull that up, please, if possible?
Give me just one moment, a chance to open that up for you.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. Thanks, Danny. That's great. Oh, sorry, man. It was great.
Oh, is it up? Oh, hold on just a second. Let me.
You got
it. Let me pull that back up. I'll share that as the. There we go. And let me pull it up as a slideshow. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you, Danny. Good evening, Chairman Busby, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Patrick Biker with Morningstar Law Group. I live at 2614 Stewart Drive. I'm here this evening representing Stackhouse Development for this agenda item. With me this evening is Robert Shunk, the Director of Entitlements for Stackhouse. What Stackhouse is proposing is a climate-controlled self-storage building on the south side of Ellis Road next to the Durham Freeway. I hope you all have had the opportunity to see the transformation of Ellis Road that's taken place over the last 5 years. Mr. Eric Rifkin, who is the master developer of Ellis Crossing, is here to share his support for this project based on his experience with that fine development. Next slide, please. It's important to recognize that there are many users of climate-controlled self-storage that are non-residential. To that end, I've been working on several new ventures in RTP over the past year or two, and it seems to me that RTP is enjoying a renaissance of its own. I think the current level of activity in RTP is the strongest it has been since 1990s when I started working in Durham on development projects. At this juncture, the hub in RTP will be creating new residential and commercial development, and that in turn will generate demand for self-storage facilities. My guess, based on working around RTP for many years, is that this storage facility on Ellis Road is just over a 5-minute drive from the hub. But more important, I think, are the storage needs of the growing startup companies and CROs, or contract research organizations, in RTP. IQVIA and other CROs are located on Ellis Road, and along with other R&D tenants in the buildings owned by Alexandria Real Estate, they will be customers of this self-storage facility. These R&D companies and CROs will need the self-storage for off-site document and material storage. If you look at the large facilities along the south side of Ellis Road, to the east of this proposed storage facility is the former Reichhold Chemical Building. Along the west side of the Durham Freeway is the former GlaxoSmithKline campus. I had the privilege of working on the purchase of both of these large facilities by Alexandria Real Estate over the past several months. And so I spoke to Alexandria directly about the need that their startup companies and CROs have for off-site climate-controlled storage. Moreover, there are certainly other R&D facilities nearby who can gain operational efficiencies by storage of materials and documents at Stackhouse's proposed new facility, rather than pay premium rent in lab buildings for such storage needs. This in turn helps Durham County demonstrate that we have a cost-effective business environment as well as a top-notch labor force as we work to support new companies in RTP. Next slide, please. Lastly, I need to emphasize the existing traffic infrastructure at this location. This is a right-in, right-out location due to a very long median in Ellis Road. Accordingly, this is a very poor site for residential development or for retail development. For residential development or for retail development. I really cannot see how folks would want to live with a right-in, right-out driveway at this location, and it seems obvious that these access conditions would doom any retail establishment to failure. Accordingly, a low traffic generating use such as self-storage makes great sense at this location. In conclusion, it is clear that there will be strong demand for climate-controlled storage from RTP-related entities. Besides that demand driver, we also wanted to be sure that members of the Planning Commission heard about Ellis Crossing, our neighbor to the north. As I noted earlier, Mr. Eric Rifkin is the master developer of Ellis Crossing, so now I'll turn it over to Mr. Rifkin. And after that, our team will be happy to answer any questions. We respectfully ask for your recommendation of approval, and we thank you for your time tonight. If you go to the next slide, Danny. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioner members. My name is Eric Rifkin at 5600 Street in Apex. I represent the developer of Ellis Crossing, who completed 1,800 units or is in the process of completing 1,800 units and commercial space there. I'm also the president of the HOA board. Mr. Biker did a great job talking about all of the needs and the use that would come from commercial, and I'll support that with speaking about the residential in the area. And the stats you can see here on the right side sort of speak for themselves. Over 1,200 units built in the over 2,200 built in the last 5 years and proposed, and only 1,200 before that. So the area's population has exploded. We hear anecdotally from our residents and from people in the apartments that they want more storage space nearby. We're in favor of this proposed development by Stackhouse, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
Thank you both very much. Like I said, no one else has signed up to speak on this item, so let me just ask if there is anyone in attendance who would like to speak on this particular case. You can use the raised hand function if you're participating via Zoom. If you're on the phone, you can press *9 to digitally raise your hand. And I don't see anyone else looking to speak on this item. So I'm going to close the hearing, and commissioners, I'll turn to you. Commissioner, hold on. Want to get you in order. Okay, Commissioner Durkin and then Commissioner Baker.
Hi, it's Erin Durkin from the Planning Commission. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties with my video today. I just had two questions. One was how it's determined that additional self-storage is needed in this area or anywhere, and how that goes, because we had, one of the attachments we had was showing the proximity of other self-storage locations. So I'm wondering why the applicant, or how they determined that there was additional need for more self-storage. And then also why a development plan was provided in this situation. I'm curious about that when it could have been done by a text amendment.
And Commissioner Durkin, I assume you're...
Oh, sorry, yes. My questions are directed to the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, our market research shows that the other self-storage facilities in the area are running at about 90% occupancy. So there's clearly demand for self-storage. There's a very low vacancy rate. And I apologize, I didn't catch Commissioner Durkin's second part of her question. If she could repeat that, we'll do our best to answer it.
Yeah, why a development plan was submitted if it could have been accomplished. I'm just wondering if there's something more to this than we'll see in the application.
No, there isn't. It is what it is. We've just, Mr. Shunk has got a strong track record with development plans in Durham, and so he turned one in, and that it is what it is. We think it's a strong proposal with the right use at the right location.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Durkin. Commissioner Baker.
Yeah, I have one one question for staff. First, I just wanted to confirm my understanding and make sure that I'm understanding this right. That this property is located directly adjacent to the municipal boundary, and that there's not an expectation that this property is going to annex into the city. I just want to confirm that that's right. And if that is right, my question is why would we support that? Why would the planning department recommend that we support upzoning and urbanizing a property that is right outside of city limits without annexing into the city?
They actually can make that request, and the reason that doesn't require the annexation is because they are not requesting any public utilities from the city.
Okay.
And because of the type of request it is, as a self-storage only, there is no need for any water and sewer for this site.
Okay. I'm going to see if anyone else has any other questions, and then I'll go ahead and share some thoughts. Thank you, Danny.
Great. Thanks, Commissioner Baker. Any other commissioners, questions, comments that you'd like to share? Again, you can just raise your hand. Commissioner Amandolia.
Thank you, Chair. I have one kind of high-level question for staff, and then one specific question for the applicant. I noticed reading the report, I came across a statement that planning department does not currently have a commercial suitability analysis similar to the industrial one that we've often referred to with cases. And I'm curious, is that something that is on y'all's agenda that would be of use to us in the future, or is that where is the planning department on that? Is that something that is seen as necessary? Is it in the works?
That one I don't have an answer for. I don't know, if that is in, our long-range planning focus at this time. I don't think it is. I know, we had done, the industrial land use study, but I don't think we have one actually in the works for any type of commercial study.
Commissioner Amandolia, this is Grace Smith with the Planning Department. It's a good question. However, we don't have a separate study that I'm aware of that's in the works right now because we're in the throes of updating our entire comprehensive plan. So we will be looking closely at these commercial areas when we do our place typing and future land use map type exercises, but good question.
Okay, thank you. And then for the applicant, I'm curious, are you considering any green design standards with this unit?
So nothing.
Nothing in particular other than stormwater, using standard insulation.
Mr. Mike, a hard time hearing. I'm not sure if you're trying to answer Commissioner Amandolia's question about green design standards being considered for the site.
Yeah, nothing specifically in mind. We're obviously focused on meeting Durham's stringent stormwater standards, and I think that's as far as we've thought through that, those design issues at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, those are all my questions at this time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other commissioners who haven't spoken yet on this item? Commissioner Herod. Commissioner Herod, you're on mute at the moment.
Someone able to help him unmute?
I don't know.
Now, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. This is a question for staff that I probably should know the answer. Under the environmental impact, it talks about the stream, but it doesn't say anything about wetlands. I guess that'll be addressed in the site plan review.
Let me look at the development plan really quick. There may not have actually been any wetlands identified on the site, but let me just take a quick look at that and make sure.
And Commissioner Herod, if you have any additional questions, feel free to ask them now, and then we can get those answered later.
No, I'm good with everything else.
Okay.
Yeah, there are about 9,000 square feet of wetlands shown in that stream area. But let me look at the development plan. Yeah, the applicant's building and parking envelope don't actually show encroaching into that, but they would address that obviously at site plan. I know with our jurisdictional requirements in the Unified Development Ordinance, we actually don't identify anything anything under an acre, we don't identify as being jurisdictional. So if they were to get state permitting, they could impact that, but they won't be able to impact it if it's within the riparian buffer. And they are showing that as part of their tree preservation as well. So they won't be impacting that area. Anything outside of that 10-foot no build, they could. If you see that little band outside of the riparian buffer area on the development plan, could impact that small area, but they wouldn't be impacting anything inside the riparian buffer.
Okay, thank you.
And again, any commissioners, you can raise your hand and I'll recognize you while I wait to see if anyone else had any comments. Piggybacking on Commissioner Amandolia's question for the applicants, we're certainly seeing heavier storms that are coming through, heavier volume, and we're seeing more applicants coming and proffering 100-year stormwater drainage systems on site. It strikes me that a development like this in a growing area would be an area, it'd be something that would be very beneficial. So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about the opportunity to consider something like that on this particular site as part of this plan.
Yeah, Chairman Busby, Patrick Biker again for the applicant. Yes, we can commit to treatment of the 100-year storm on this site, and we'll be happy to wordsmith that text commitment with Grace and her folks if we're fortunate enough to move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And staff, I assume we've seen this before. Is this something you're comfortable adding and voting on this evening?
Danny Colch with the planning department. We would be. That's an easy text commitment to add.
Thank you. Great. Okay. I don't see any other commissioners asking to be recognized. Commissioner Baker, I know you wanted to share some comments.
Yeah, and I'm glad that that last commitment was made. I think that's really important. I also think that this location is really a perfectly reasonable place to have warehousing and manufacturing and self-storage. There are a lot of issues in Durham, and I don't think we're all necessarily thrilled whenever one of these self-storage cases comes before us, but actually right adjacent to a freeway is a really, really good place to put self-storage. And in fact, just kind of thinking a little bit more broadly, I hope that in the new comprehensive plan that we're looking at places adjacent to freeways, where there's a lot of toxic emissions from vehicles, as good locations for manufacturing in those types of uses. There's noise, there's air pollution. Where I'm a little bit hung up is this whole issue that it is on the north side and on the east side, directly adjacent to municipal limits, and that we would upzone and urbanize a property that is not in city limits and that is not being requested to be in city limits. To me, that's concerning. People are going to be getting there on city roads, and they're not going to be paying city taxes. And maybe if this facility were smaller and located further away from municipal limits, and we're serving the rural population of Durham County, it would be different. But this is up to 140,000 square feet of storage space located directly adjacent to municipal limits that's going to be serving a substantial number of city customers. And so I'm just very hung up on that. And I, without that annexation, I don't think that I can support this, despite the fact that, this last proffer, which I think is really important, was just made. So unless, if someone else has something that I'm not thinking of about why that would be good for the city to upzone outside of municipal limits, I'm probably going to be voting no on this one. And that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Baker. And I don't see anyone else looking to speak, and so I will accept a motion in just a moment. I'll just share, my thinking as well. Like Commissioner Baker, had some concerns about this. I think this presentation tonight was helpful in some ways, the right in, right out, and like Commissioner Baker said, I think the location was pretty important to me. The proffer, obviously, I asked for the proffer, and it was accepted. I think that's important, and I'm going to plan to vote for it, but I do hear Commissioner Baker's concerns as well, and I think that's a very valid reason to vote no as well. That said, not seeing anyone else looking to speak, I will accept a motion and a second for approval.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move that we send case Z20042 forward to the county commission, right, with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. Yes, that was an appropriate motion, Commissioner Baker, and a second by Commissioner Amandolia, and we will have the roll call vote, please.
Okay, Amandolia,
No.
Baker,
No.
Busby,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Cutright,
Yes.
Durkin,
Yes.
Harrod,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
MacIver, Commissioner MacIver.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
All right, fine.
Morgan,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williams.
No.
Okay, it passes 9-3.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We're going to move to the next case. This is case Z1900039, and it's Wine Outlet. We'll start with the staff report.
Thank you, Chair. But just give me one moment to pull that presentation up. Oops. There we go. There we go. Again, Danny Coulter with the Planning Department. This is a request for zoning map change. Z1900039 Wine Outlet is received from Cliff Cradle Engineering, representing Svati Holdings, LLC, for two parcels located at 4823 and 4827 Hobson Road, totaling 1.22 acres. The site is within the city's jurisdiction and in the Metro North Compact Neighborhood Development tier. The applicant proposes to change the zoning designation of the site from office and institutional, OI, and commercial neighborhood with a development plan, CND, to commercial neighborhood with a development plan for a maximum of 12,180 square feet of retail sales and service uses. The future land use map, or the flume, is designated as commercial with no change proposed to the flume. The context map shows the site is zoned CND and O&I. To the east and the west are commercial center, zoning OI to the east and the west, commercial center to the north, and commercial general and commercial neighborhood to the south opposite Hobson Road. A small area of 500-year or 2% non-regulated flood hazard area encroaches on the northwest side of the site. One parcel of the site from the aerial map you can see is developed, however, as a community services daycare. However, the building currently sits vacant. The other parcel actually is undeveloped. The site is surrounded by apartments to the north. with an associated dog park that borders the site to the east, and self-service storage and retail located across the street to the south, and a telecommunications facility to the west. Existing condition sheet, as you can see, previously noted vacant building with parking and paved pedestrian areas, and there's a merged area, lanes merging up to Miami Boulevard. The proposed conditions indicates the required right-of-way dedication for Hobson Road. The right-in, right-out lanes shows the access drives for the site, maximum building floor areas, maximum impervious surfaces. And as the site is located in the compact neighborhood tier, the building envelope is shown being pulled all the way up to the front of the site per ordinance. That's a requirement for the dimensional street yard standards. Summary commitments, key text and graphic commitments, they're limiting the uses to retail sales and service and associated accessory uses. Dedicate a 20-foot of additional right-of-way for Hobson Road site frontage. Limit Hobson Road access drives to right-in, right-out only. Extend existing concrete monolith island in Hobson Road to Miami Boulevard prior to CO. Maximum building floor area limited to 12,180 square feet and a maximum of 70% impervious surfaces, whereas there are no required impervious surface limits for this site. And staff determines that the proposed development consistent with the comprehensive plan policies, and determined that this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and all applicable policies and ordinances. And staff is available for any questions.
Thanks again, Mr. Coltra. I'm sure we'll be asking you questions if we have any. We'll open the public hearing first. We have one individual signed up to speak. That's the applicant. That is Cliff Cradle. And Mr. Cradle, you are welcome to give us your name, your address, and make your remarks, please.
All right. Thank you, Chairman, and good to be with y'all this evening. And I appreciate y'all taking a look at this project. It's been ongoing for a while. My name is Cliff with Cradle Engineering, 204 East Markham Avenue, Durham, North Carolina, 27701. I am the site engineer for this project. As you could see with the existing conditions report, this is an old daycare building that's been not utilized for several years now. And the current owner is looking to redevelop the site into something more updated with this particular area. There is a daycare further down the street, so we're not taking away any sort of services from this area. Actually, when we first started working on this, this was out in the way out in the suburban area. Now it's kind of in the middle of everything. So we feel very good about what we're proposing to reuse this building and add a little bit to it so that this site can be utilized again with our plans. And I will say that since we started this project, DOT is actually in the midst of, DOT is in the midst of the project to increase this section of Hobson Road to the 4-lane or 5-lane section as the rest of this particular area. That acquisition has already started. So that's a little bit different than the development plan was looking. However, that was planned and is underway per a previous zoning of an adjacent parcel. So just wanted to let you know that the traffic, there won't be any traffic issues with that redevelopment of that particular area. So I feel really good that we're going to take this building that's been sitting this vacant for this long and be able to utilize it for a good use in this area. So looking for a recommendation of approval from you tonight, if I don't mind asking. And I am here. The owner is with me, although he didn't sign up. So I think I'm the only one that can answer any questions associated with that at this time. So I am available for any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Cradle. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? No one else had signed up in advance. Again, if you are with us, you can press the raise your hand feature. If you're on the phone, you can press *9. And I don't see anyone else looking to speak on this item. So we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, questions, comments, statements you'd like to make on this item? Commissioner Amandolia.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions for the applicant. The first is, I'm curious if you have a vision for what this space will look like in the future. Are we hoping to attract restaurants to the area? Just pure retail? I'm just kind of getting an idea. There is a rental community next door, and so I'm wanting to get a sense of the type of amenities I could expect to see come to the area or hope to see come to the area. I know you can't say anything certainly, but I'm curious your vision.
It's a very good question, and thanks for asking. The Wine Outlet actually does have a retail portion of their facilities. And then we have had a lot of interest in restaurants in the area. I will say most of that interest was pre-COVID. I think the area with its expanding and restaurants in the area, we're very open to that as a lease to portion of the building. But the majority of the building and the purpose of the building is for the Wine Outlet to be able to relocate to this area. And the building will actually look like a lot of we're updating the building. I didn't mention that earlier, to make it look like a lot of the things in that area, which is much updated as opposed to this old concrete building. So that's part of, like I say, it was the only building out there when we first started. Now it's in the middle of a highly developed area. So looking forward to utilizing this one.
Great. And then, since the apartment neighborhood next door immediately abuts the property, have you considered any type of direct access to that community so residents could just immediately come on and enjoy the space, or as opposed to going around on the sidewalks?
That's a great question, and yes, there is actually a row of shrubs between us and the parking lot just behind us, which is very level, so it is a walking area. Trying to get in touch with the owner of the apartment complex has been less than easy to get in touch with them, but very much so, very open to talking to them, and wouldn't even mind a little bit like a multimedia access point through there should they need it in the future. But definitely walking, yes.
Awesome, that's really great to hear. And then I have a question for staff. So one of my just biggest concerns looking at this, and I'm thankful that in many ways this is a fairly innocuous case, but there's a rental community nearby, and we know that currently renters are not notified of rezonings happening near their property. And even though this case is likely to be a net benefit for the residents nearby, I still value renters being notified of what's going on in their neighborhood. And I understand that staff is working on updating the standards to include renters and notification. I'm just curious if there's a sense of timeline of when that change might be brought forward.
Commissioner Amandolia, Michael Stock with the Planning Department. We should be getting the text amendment that includes those either next month or at the very latest September.
That's great to hear. Thank you. I'll wait to hear what other folks have to say, but those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Amandolia. While I wait to see if other commissioners are interested in speaking or asking questions, I did have one question for the applicant, Mr. Cradle. And you probably won't be surprised if you heard my question for the last case as well. I'm wondering about your ability on this site to consider and potentially proffer a 100-year stormwater commitment. Again, just seeing the amount of rain that we're seeing in Durham, we're seeing a lot of proffers being made by developers to be able to make that offer. It's a good green stormwater, good neighbor issue to consider. Wondering your take on that. Is that something that could be handled with this case, and is that something you'd be willing to consider to proffer?
And that is a good question. I'll have to take a look at how much more volume is associated with the 100-year storm. Because things have, and be honest with you now, when we first started this project, all the stormwater was actually going into the ditch with detention, so that pre equals post, obviously, as the ordinance require, but now we're actually tying into DOT's stormwater system, which is going to be installed while we're working on this project. So I've got no problem with handling the maximum, because obviously we got to put in a detention facility, and you don't undersize those. So oversizing that a little bit. And with a site this small and it's already heavily impervious, the difference between storms is very small when it comes to storage. So we will definitely take a look at handling the maximum we can, because obviously we want to move the water from the site into detention and into the system as quickly as possible, but we also are required to not increase the stormwater. So that's a very good question.
Great. Well, and thanks for your response tonight. I know in some cases, like Mr. Biker in the last case was able to make that proffer. He probably anticipated one of us would ask. It's a common question at the Planning Commission these days. But I do hope you'll consider it, as this moves forward to the governing body. That's something I'll be putting in my notes for the governing body to be considering as well. But I hope as it moves along, you can take a look at it. And if it fits on your property, I hope you'll proactively offer it. But then you may get asked at the governing body as well. But thank you for that response. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I don't see anyone else asking to be recognized, so I'm going to just give one more moment, and if not, I will look for a motion and a second for us to move this case forward.
Regarding case Z1900039 Wine Outlet, I move that we move this forward to the City Council with a favorable recommendation.
Seconded.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Amandolia, seconded by Commissioner Morgan, and we'll have the roll call vote.
Amandolia,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Busby,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Cutright,
Yes.
Durkin,
Yes.
Harrod,
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Okay. McIver,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cradle.
Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the recommendation. Thank you very much.
Have a good evening. Our next case is case Z210001. This is 1908 Cedar Street, and we'll start with the staff report.
Great. Good evening. Thank you, Chair Busby, Commissioners. Alexander Cahill here with the Planning Department. 1 second, we'll get going. Presenting tonight on case Z21004001 1908 Cedar Street. This is a proposal from an individual landowner that owns the parcel in question at 1908 Cedar Street. This is within the city jurisdiction in the urban tier. The existing zoning on the site is residential suburban 20, and it is about 8.55 acres in size. The existing future land use map has it designated as medium density residential for the area, and there is no proposed change to that FLUM this evening. The applicant is proposing to rezone to residential urban 5, and this is to allow for the construction of one additional single-family home. The existing lot is not large enough to subdivide in order to create 2 lots and 2 single-family homes within the RS20 existing zoning. As you can see in the zoning context map, it's RS20 to the north of this site, RS10 to the south, west, and east, and then we have residential urban 5 is what we are, what the applicant is proposing being rezoned to this evening. If you look at the future land use map, it's currently medium density residential, which is 6 to 12 dwelling units an acre is the future vision for this area. There is no change to this proposed FLUM at this time tonight. As we've learned that it's important to go back to what the districts are for and what they mean, just a reminder that the RU district is really established to provide for orderly urban residential development and redevelopment. A limited number of residential uses can be allowed in them, but really the point is to maintain the character of the urban neighborhood as it is. If we look at the aerial map of this, you see it's the 0.855 acres in between these 2 streets here is located in the Forest Hills neighborhood. This is an area of single-family homes, old growth trees, and a neighborhood that's been established and around for quite some time. This is a straight zoning map change tonight. We don't see a lot of those. So I just want to remind everyone that's listening that this does not have an associated development plan, either a graphic plan or a text-only development plan. But the applicant does intend to subdivide the property and construct a second single-family dwelling unit on the parcel. However, this is not a commitment that we are able to demonstrate without a development plan or a text commitment. The virtual neighborhood meeting was held in accordance with the Unified Development Ordinance requirements on December 16th of 2020. 10 community members were in attendance, including the applicant. Staff does listen to these neighborhood meetings and ensures that the applicants are listening to the concerns and attempting to answer questions, which they did in this meeting. Since this case was noticed, Planning Commission and staff have received emails related to this case. There was one email asking the commission to delay this case and to consider other different zoning designations. And then we also received another email in support of the case. And then we also received a phone call from an adjacent property owner just asking if the rezoning would impact their property. Staff just does want to note that the designations that were offered in the email were both residential suburban designations, and they are not allowed in the urban tier. Staff and the applicant is here tonight to answer any questions. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cahill. Appreciate the staff report. We do have a few folks that have signed up to speak, so we will open the public hearing. And I'm not sure if everyone is here with us this evening. I do believe the applicant is with us. I think we had a couple other proponents, some who were undecided about whether they were going to speak or not. So I'm going to call them out in case they would like to speak. And then I think we do have a few individuals who didn't state if they were for or against as well. So I'll just kind of call those in order as we go. But we will start with the applicant, and that is Eric Lewis. And if you can give us your name and your mailing address, and then you can share your comments, please.
Yep, sounds good. Is my audio coming through well?
You're good.
Thank you very much. So Eric Lewis, actually go by Shay as well, so Shay Lewis also works. I reside at 1908 Cedar Street, Durham, 27707. And first, I think, of course, I'd like to thank the Planning Commission for the opportunity to speak and kind of share my thoughts around the property. I'd also like to thank the planning staff that has provided valuable information throughout this process to assist me in evaluating options that best align with some of my desires. As I mentioned, Eric Lewis, I think a great place to start. I am the resident at the home with my wife and my children. We've been there for 6 years and plan on residing there for many years to come. I really emphasize that. I need to share my commitment and desire to enhance Durham, the community, as well as my surrounding areas. As I kind of mentioned, I'm born and raised in Durham, so Durham is my current home and will continue to be for years to come. As you've just heard, the property at 1908 Cedar Street is approximately 0.855 acres. The plan actually submitted, the proposal submitted would potentially divide the lot and create an additional lot on the back facing Kent of 0.36 acres, which is actually equal to and in many instances greater than surrounding lots in the area. The amount of space allows for, I think, housing options that will align very well to those currently on Kent. Also, just for clarity, my proposal and all plans would have no structural or physical impact to the front side of Cedar Street. So that entrance, right now, there is a driveway with my current home residing there. So no modifications there based on any potential proposals. The proposed division also intentionally aligns with the property and fence line of my neighbors to the south, who I think they're ones that actually send the email, but have voiced no concerns with this potential rezoning. And again, for me, the uniformity is very important, and I know it's also important to my neighbors again. So I am fully aware of the historic designation of the home and of the neighborhood, and it's important to call out that I think that historic designation is based on the home structure and not actually the lot size. So dividing the lot would have no impact on historic relevance of the home. And also say, being a Durham native, it'd kind of be remiss not to touch on briefly the historic alignment of the home and Forest Hills as a neighborhood, because as we speak on historic relevance of a community, it's not always limited to just one snapshot. Again, being born here, I've seen many things that align very closely to Durham, and during the neighborhood informational that I hosted to brief the community on the rezoning application, I was asked a couple times on my vision of Forest Hills and my understanding of the historic nature of the home and the neighborhood. As it was mentioned, I responded then, and actually, kind of my response is actually the same. Being a native of Durham, my vision aligns very closely, I think, with the growing involving of Durham as a city and inclusive place that, continues to grow on a day-by-day basis. I know we've all seen, we're actually just rated #2 place and city to live as well. So, I welcome that growth, change, and inclusivity that the city is also embracing. And it's needed, I think, for our current residents as well as future residents of all that we'll be expecting. But I do want to, again, kind of just touch very quickly on the historic nature, because, again, when we talk about historic pieces, we want to make sure that always align inclusivity. And as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, there were measures put in place many years back based on covenants to promote exclusivity and deny access to certain parts of Durham. So I'm thankful, of course, of the evolution by way of laws that have helped this neighborhood move into inclusivity, but I also want to make sure that decisions we are making are not limited by some of those historical components as well. So my proposal, truthfully, is being based in inclusivity and access by way of an additional lot in close proximity to downtown Durham to support the growth of a welcoming and inclusive city. I'll wrap really by saying, again, I appreciate the consideration. Being the resident at 1908 Cedar Street, I am highly motivated to enhance the community and that property in particular. And I truly believe the current lot measuring 0.855 acres is sufficient for 1908 Cedar, as well as growth on Kent Street. So I hope you agree and will approve classification of RU5 for 1908 Cedar Street. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Next on the list was Alan Avery, and they're a proponent. They were undecided on speaking. I don't see that they are signed up or with us. So I'm gonna move on. And next we had Larry Pollard, and then we had Brenda Pollard. So I'll give you each the opportunity to give us your name, your address, and your brief remarks for 2 minutes or so. So Chris, I'm not sure if you can get either Larry or Brenda off mute to speak.
Can you hear me?
We can, you've got it. Maybe on.
Can you hear me better now? I'm trying to connect the bad connection. This is Brenda Pollard, Mr.
That is
Chair.
much better, much better. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And I know this is reverse order. I'm Brenda Pollard. I live at 1902 Cedar Street and have for 36 years. It is home to me, and what we were trying to do is to educate ourselves. We're not opposed. We're not for. What we're doing is to understand clearly what the rezoning is about. We were not able to be on the public hearing in December. We were out of town and just unable to do that one. And anyway, unaware of it actually, but still moving forward. And I thank you very much for listening to our comments. And I will add Larry on, who is had been at that residence for 73 years. But we are the neighbors. We too share in the concerns of including, growing. Durham is the greatest city, and certainly we are recognized nationally, second in the country where to live. But we also are historic in this neighborhood. And I think it's important to be sure that when we zone or rezone, that we do it with a lot of thought and a lot of education and transparency, as our neighbor has expressed. But we wanted to get clarity. Is it, and I think we understand it, it's one home on Kent Street, not a subdivision, and maybe staff can answer that. But let me use my time and better for the zoning planning commissioners to let Larry Pollard speak, and thank you for your patience with our Wi-Fi.
Not a problem.
Linda, and thank you, members of the commission. My name is Larry Pollard, better known as Thomas Lawrence Pollard, and I live at 1902 Cedar Street and have lived there for 73 years, believe it or not. And it's been a wonderful place to grow up and live and enjoy. And we've welcomed in new neighbors, and we've certainly lost a lot of older neighbors. But all in all, the neighborhood has been a wonderful place to live and to either raise a family or to grow up in a family and enjoy that area. I wanted to come down and speak at the meeting mainly because I did not know of the meeting on December 16th. I did receive a letter from the applicant, and I appreciated that. And I have also had personal contact with him, expressing his willingness to talk about this particular application. And I guess the months just flew by, either with COVID or other things, and being out of state for a while. But now I'm here, and I spoke with Mr. Couture the other day about it, and I did want to speak, not necessarily to oppose this, because I believe that Mr. Lewis is a fine, fine neighbor, and I'm very proud to have him as my neighbor and his family. And they have 3 wonderful boys, and he has a lovely wife, and we are very, very happy with our neighbors. But I wanted to call and come in and listen to what was going on with the application so that I am familiar with it as it relates to my property, which is next door. And we're not trying to oppose in any way for anything. We're here listening to the application. We want to support Shay and his family, but at the same time, we want to be knowledgeable about what's going on in our neighborhood and how it does affect our property next door, not just now, but in the future. So that is our reason for being here tonight and to speak on it. And it's been definitely enlightening to me in this particular area. So all in all, From what I've heard, I don't have problems with it. Like I said, I'm just educating myself, and I look forward to talking with Mr. Lewis more about it. And as I said, he's offered that to me, and I'd love to keep in touch with him about it, and wish everyone there in his residence and also on Cedar Street the very best. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks to both of you. Really appreciate your engagement and your comments this evening. That's everyone who signed up who was interested in speaking. As always, I want to give the opportunity if anyone else would like to speak on this item while the public hearing is still open. You can hit the raise hand feature. If you're on Zoom, you can press *9 if you have called in. And I do see Ellen Pless has raised her hand. Ms. Pless, thanks for being with us, and we'll get you off of mute. And you can have 2 minutes for your comments.
Yes, thank you very much, Commission. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. My name's Ellen Pless, and I reside at 706 East Forest Hills Boulevard in, obviously, at Forest Hills. And I've been here for, I guess, 23 years at this point. I wanted to call in. I did send in a letter to the Commission. Some of those letters bounced back to me, however, through a mail demon, and so I'm not sure if the email actually reached everyone who is seated on this case today. I am the individual who is asking for a delay in this case so that there could be some additional inclusive meetings between the property owners, preferably both of them, the neighborhood, planning staff, and some persons involved with community historic preservation. Forest Hills has worked really hard as a community for the last 4 years now to try and get the city of Durham to work with us with respect to community-based planning for our National Historic District. A number of those efforts have been frustrated over time, and at this point, we find ourselves presented with this case, which is an RS-20 property. Forest Hills generally is not defined by RU5. We were developed as Durham's first suburban neighborhood. We have curvilinear streets. We do not have all neat little square lots of land. We were Durham's first automotive suburb, and as such, our layout is based on that. And I'm really interested in trying to get a dialogue going with regard to what Durham's intention is for our neighborhood. Our attempts to run that conversation have been sidelined over and over again. I hear in this case talk that there is an intention for a single-family house to be built should this action be approved. I do not, however, see that there is any sort of commitment to that regard. And it's that difference between intention versus commitment within a National Historic District that has me concerned. I do believe that North Carolina Session Law, I believe it's 2015-86, allows for the development of various design standards within National Historic Districts, not just local historic districts. And if there could be more discussion if RS-10 zoning, which would be a natural fit for this project, if that cannot be respected in this case due to changes in zoning code here locally, could we please at least get a dialogue going so that these property owners could go ahead and build their desired, intended single-family home, but without putting a brand new hole, punching a hole of RU5 right in the middle of our historic district, which is RS-20 and RS-10. So this is a precedent-setting case. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And again, if anyone else would like to speak, you can digitally raise your hand. We will provide you the opportunity to speak. So there were no new speakers. We're going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, it's back to you. Any comments, questions? Commissioner Cease?
Sure. Well, thank you. And for the comments that everyone who spoke from the public that they've shared with us. I wanted to say that, first of all, I'll acknowledge that I know the applicant and the family well. I also know the site fairly well. And I think there are a number of issues to point out. First of all, just from the standpoint of Durham moving forward in facing the challenges that we have with regards to growth, with regards to equity, with regards to housing, I would like to encourage everyone, particularly the elected officials, to go back and listen to what the applicant stated, to what Mr. Lewis stated at the outset. I thought his description of their long history here in Durham, his understanding of the historic district, his understanding of the significance of the historic structure and the difference between that and the zoning was an important point, incredibly well stated. And then the concerns with regards to being open and welcoming and being a part of that growth rather than coding a particular neighborhood in ether and preserving it as a snapshot in time. And so I thought it was just incredibly well articulated. So I applaud Shay on stating it in the way that he did. I hope others will go back at the recording of this and listen to that, because it's relevant in a lot of ways, well beyond this particular case. Also, I think just from the standpoint of planning processes in the department, we've got an application here from an individual landowner to do something that's fairly straightforward, very simple on an individual lot. But the wherewithal or the capacity for many Durham residents to do that with land that they may have owned for a long time is quite limited. It's a barrier and a procedural barrier for someone to go through the steps that this applicant has done to do simply this one rezoning application. And so I'd like to encourage staff to think about ways in which, particularly as we go through updates to the comprehensive plan, updates to the engagement plan, think about ways in which we can be more accommodating of small scale planning requests. I'm not saying that to automate the process in any way, but to alter the process perhaps in a way that supports individual applicants who are seeking to do something that both enhances their land and helps address broader needs within the community. So I just wanted to make those 2 points. The proposal is very straightforward to me, it seems, but I'll see if I see that there are some other commissioners who want to speak. I'll let others speak, and then maybe I'll come back and add a few comments as well, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thanks, Commissioner Cease. Next is Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one question for staff. I was reading through Ms. Pless's email to us about the one question of why the zoning is not set up to go with RS10 versus RU5. When I look at the FLUM and I look at some of the context map there, she makes a good point that it is going to be a little bit different than the surrounding neighborhood. So I was curious, it seemed like that the planning department had advised the applicant to go with an RU5 designation. Can I ask staff for that question?
Definitely. Yeah, that is a great question. And I think as straightforward as this case is, this kind of speaks to kind of what the future land use map is versus zoning. That's a guiding vision for what development should or look like or feel or be in the future. And so it's an urban tier location with a medium density residential future land use map designation. And because of that, the existing zoning is not aligning with that FLUM, right? It was designated as such, but you can't do residential suburban zoning and future land use of this designation. And so residential urban 5 is what we recommended, is because it's the zoning that fits within that future land use map designation and helps guide us and move us towards that inclusive growth and development that Shay is offering.
Okay, so it makes sense. I mean, we're in the urban tier and not in the suburban tier, so it'd be inconsistent to go with an RS10.
And if I may, this is Michael Stock with the Planning Department. Also, the ordinance doesn't allow for new RS zoning changes in the urban tier. So the applicant's options were limited to RU districts in terms of what he was looking to do.
Okay, that was kind of a question that was brought up by some of the folks in the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Durkin, you're next.
I just wanted to voice my support for this. I think it's rare that there's a situation where there's a through lot where you could divide it in half and have egress on two different streets. And I just think I like the opportunity that they're taking to do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Cameron.
I don't know why it took me so long to unmute. Hey, good evening. So I just want to offer my support. I do know the family as well. You know, this is the future land use designation that it increases the density in the middle of Durham. As it is right now, it's an urban area. It is not in the past when it was designed to be a suburban neighborhood. Dividing large lots and increasing the housing options in Durham is exactly what many Durhamites are trying to figure out what to do. And so this just aligns with the goals that we have, how we want our city to look. So I just, again, wanted to support the applicant.
Thank you. And Commissioner Baker.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know the applicant, so I think I'm in the minority here. I definitely I rode my bike down to this property yesterday to take a look, and it's a pretty wide lot. I think it's like, I don't actually know, 80 to 100 feet. So I definitely think, and as Commissioner Durkin pointed out, it's a double-sided lot with ingress and egress on both sides of it, and so it definitely makes sense to divide the lot. To me, I just want to point something out, and this is something that Commissioner Cease was getting to, is that to me, this is a perfect example of where if we had a system of neighborhood planning and a system of small area planning that was ongoing in the city of Durham that looked at neighborhoods more comprehensively and engaged people along the way, that sites like these, I think, would come up as opportunity areas. I don't find a giant new house in Forest Hills particularly inclusive and forward moving. I would love to see on a lot this big, in a location with pretty good access to green space, pretty good access to commercial areas, something more bold, frankly, you know, a quadruplex or something even higher, and something that incorporates an affordable housing unit or two. I think that if we had sort of a neighborhood planning process and a system of neighborhood planning in Durham, we would be able to find better ways of incorporating density into neighborhoods in a way that is compatible and supported by the community itself and the neighborhood itself, and sort of find the best of both worlds, where people can both be engaged in the process of shaping their neighborhoods and the world around them, and we can achieve meaningful density and not just sort of like one more big house here, one bit more big house there. So that's all I'm going to say. As I mentioned, you know, I support a change here where the lot can be split, but I also think that this is a missed opportunity and a part of a sort of a larger systemic issue that needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Any other commissioners who would like to speak? Commissioner Cease, are you looking to speak a second time?
Yeah. If I could, just real quickly, to Commissioner Baker's point, I agree with the sentiment that from a larger scale planning perspective, having the opportunity to be more bold, in the words that Commissioner Baker used, would be a good thing. And I think this is a site that is suitable for it, given the Kent Street frontage in particular. But on the other hand, I think it's also a very pragmatic and reasonable proposition that the applicant has brought forward. There are, I think in the text, there was a question perhaps from the neighborhood meeting regarding ADUs, if those were allowed. They are. It's not the applicant's intent. There are a lot of ways to parse out details. And I think that first and foremost, addressing the Kenchen Street frontage and being consistent with what staff has identified as the means by which to allow this subdivision, subdividing the parcel into two, is a perfectly reasonable proposition. The last thing I'll add, and this is an attempt hopefully to address some of the sentiments that we heard from the public members who were speaking earlier, is about the nature of the neighborhood. And as Mr. Lewis pointed out, this zoning designation doesn't change the house one way or the other. It's about the land or the size of the parcel. But on the other hand, there was a reference to Forest Hills being, curvilinear large lot subdivision, and I think that's only, that leaves out a large chunk of Forest Hills, and those are the 3, 4, 5 blocks around this house, which are rectilinear blocks, streets, nice square blocks with much smaller lots than other portions of the neighborhood. And so in that sense, what's being proposed for this property is more consistent with what's directly adjacent to it on all 3 of the 4 sides for sure. So I'm certainly in support of it. Thank you.
No one else is asking to speak, so this would be the appropriate time for a motion.
Chair, regarding case number Z21-001, 1908 Cedar Street, I move that we send this to the City Council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Amandolia, seconded by Commissioner Cameron, and we'll have the roll call vote.
All right, took me a minute to unmute. Amandolia,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Busby,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Cutright,
Yes.
Durkin,
Yes.
Harrod,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Commissioner McIver had to leave the meeting, so he's gone. Morgan,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's unanimous.
Thank you. We have 2 remaining items under new business for tonight, and the first is the actual vote this evening on the Planning Commission block length text amendment resolution. You'll recall that Commissioner Baker has been chairing the committee that has brought forward this recommendation. We had a good presentation at last month's meeting. We wanted to have the presentation and then have a vote just to have full public transparency on the item. Commissioner Baker, if there's anything else you'd like to note, you're welcome to do so. But I think we're at the point where we can have the vote. And Grace, you might just help me out here. Do we need a motion and a second, or this is coming from a committee and do we just need a second? What's the right procedure?
You would treat it like any other action. You need a motion and a second to move it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Baker, I'm gonna give you the. Feel free to make any quick remarks, but then I'll let you make the motion, and I'm sure you'll get a second.
Yeah, thanks. I'm actually not even going to give a presentation. I just would encourage folks to take a look at the item. Just very briefly. So we saw this item last month. I did a little presentation then. Again, this is not a vote on the actual draft amendment itself. This is a vote on the resolution to initiate a text amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance, something we have never done before on the Planning Commission. So if the resolution passes, the draft text amendment would go to the planning department and be reviewed by staff. staff would make or propose whatever changes they deem necessary. And then the text amendment would come back to us. It would return to the Planning Commission. We would make a recommendation, and the recommendation would proceed to the elected officials. So this resolution came out of many, many months of work with the policy committee, which is myself, Commissioner Amandolia, and Commissioner Carmen Williams. We also had 3 other members, including Tom Miller, and there are also a couple other folks who have expressed interest to me in the work of the committee. The committee was formed to look into the UDO and various planning issues more broadly and be a little bit more proactive about making necessary changes or recommendations to advance sustainability and equity goals. The committee started off by surveying planning commissioners at large and then asked about comprehensive plan goals and policies, and then it developed a list of projects, one of which included enhancing street connectivity in new developments. Some of the other items included transit-oriented building design standards, new mixed-use walkable zoning districts, public park dedication requirements, and a few other items. And so this one is in regard to block length requirements. I just want to read very briefly a paragraph from the Journal of the American Planning Association from just a few months ago. It's about the evolution of the American street network planning and design. The quote is, "Hundreds of studies in recent decades have identified the role that street network design plays in travel behavior, public health, and environmental sustainability. Traditional patterns such as fine-grained interconnected grids are associated with higher rates of active transportation and less driving. But after a century of building cities around the spatial logic of the automobile, planners today face car-oriented crises in public safety, physical inactivity, traffic congestion, and rising environmental pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. This is of enormous importance to the planning practice, which sits at a critical leverage point to shape these outcomes." And that's from the Journal of the American Planning Association. So what exactly is before us today? You already saw this last month. First, we have the resolution. The resolution cites relevant sections of the UDO and state statutes and the comprehensive plan. It cites the peer-reviewed planning literature that I just referenced. And then there are references to what other places are doing, and mentions that that maximum block lengths are actually quite frequently proffered by developers these days. The next item is the actual recommended language. We went through several iterations of this on the policy committee for how the UDO should be amended. We recommend adding a subsection 13.6.3. That language proposes flexibility and tailoring of block lengths based on which zoning district the block length is being created in. It proposes a maximum block length, a maximum average block length, and a maximum block perimeter. Then it proposes numerous situations where the block length would actually not apply. So, if there are steep slopes or streams or wetlands or railroad rights of way or whatever, you simply not able to meet the block length requirement, you wouldn't be required to meet the block length requirement. And then the proposal also includes a provision to ensure that on longer blocks that there is a cut through on the block for pedestrian connectivity. And lastly, I just want to say thank you to everyone on the committee, Tom, Carmen, Austin, and frankly, everyone else who's had a hand in this. We've worked really hard with staff, members of the community, all the commissioners, provided their input. This is something, again, that we've never done before. I hope that we do it again. I hope that the Planning Commission feels empowered, and I hope that we're successful in moving through this process. And I hope that you'll support it, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioner Baker, I think you can make the motion and we'll get a second, and I think we're good to vote.
Okay, so I think that the motion would be to move to adopt the resolution. Grace, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's the motion.
Yes, you want to move to adopt the PC resolution for, on the agenda, it says move, you want to move to adopt the PC block linked text amendment resolution.
Okay, so moved, as stated by Grace.
Second.
Great. Moved by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Harrod, and we'll have the roll call vote.
Okay, Amandolia,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Busby,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Cutright,
Yes.
Durkin,
Yes.
Harrod,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
and Williams.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you, and thank you in particular to the committee members who spent a lot of time working on this. Really excited to see this move forward and look forward to seeing this coming back to the commission when it's ready to take the next step. So our final item this evening is the election of a vice chairperson, and this is due to Vice Chair Kenchen being term limited and cycling off. We need to elect a vice chair tonight. Two things that are worth noting, and then I'll turn it over to Grace. The first is this is to complete the end of the current term. So this would be from now through September. And in September, we have our annual vote for chair and vice chair. And then the second is just a reminder that the rules of procedure for the Planning Commission require that we always have one city appointee and one county appointee serving together as chair and vice chair. I'm a city appointee, so we will need a county appointee to serve as the vice chair to finish this year's term. And with that, I will open the floor for nominations. So there's kind of a two-part process. Anyone is welcome to put forward a name for nomination to be considered. And then when we close the nominations, then we'll turn it over to Grace, who will run the vote process. So I'll open it up for any names for consideration. Feel free to raise your hand virtually or actually raise your hand, and I'll recognize you. Commissioner Lowe.
Yes, I just have a question of clarity. I'm not sure who are the county appointees. I'm not sure who would I nominate if I wanted to. Besides myself, and I'm not available to do it, but what are the other county appointees?
Commissioner Lowe, I can answer that question. Commissioner Morgan is a county appointee. Commissioner McIver is a county appointee. The two new commissioners that are not on the meeting are both county appointees, Zuri Williams and Katie Rose Levin. I believe Mr. Amandolia is a county appointee. And there should be another one.
Commissioner Baker.
Commissioner Baker. I don't have my roster in front of me. I knew there was one more. It says Commissioner Baker. I keep thinking he's city, but he's county. Yep.
Thank you. Well, armed with that information, I would like to nominate Commissioner Morgan.
And there can be multiple nominations.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Baker.
Are there any other nominations on the floor before we go to vote on the two nominations that we've received? We have a nomination for David Morgan and a nomination for Nate Baker.
And Grace, the one thing I do want to do is these are always, to use a technical term, these are always a little wacky when you're in the middle of a year. So I did want to give both Commissioner Morgan and Baker the opportunity to let us know, are you interested? Are you willing to serve? I don't think we want to be voting on someone who does not have the interest or the ability to serve in a role that we're about to vote on.
Excellent observation, and it would be very temporary until September. You could always test drive it and then ditch it in September if you're not happy. But yeah, so if you would, yes, let us know before we call a vote.
And before we do that, Commissioner Durkin, I want to recognize you. You've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I was going to ask also if there was a county appointee that is interested in serving as vice chair but was not nominated because no one knows if they're interested. If you can raise your hand or let us know, then I'd be happy to nominate you as well. No disrespect whatsoever to Commissioners Morgan and Baker, but if someone else was interested, I'd be happy to put their name forward. Since it is a wacky kind of process.
I'm going to nominate Amandolia. This is the first time in my experience that there has been more than one nominee, so.
Well, usually we get to confer before the meeting starts in person, but we don't get that opportunity in this setting. So for those of you that have only been joining by Zoom in the last 18 months or so, that is usually what happens.
Yes, this environment makes it a little different. So yeah, but was there anyone else that was interested per Ms. Durkin's request? If there's someone else interested, please raise your hand. We have 3 nominations on the floor, and I will just take the votes in order that I received the nominations unless I'm told differently.
Well, and I would like to say you're welcome to withdraw your nomination. And the reason I thought about this was right after Commissioner Morgan being nominated, he nominated someone else, which is very generous. But I also want to make sure that if you're not interested in serving, I don't want you having your name put forward. You can ask to have your name.
I would rather one of the other 2 nominees be elected. So I would withdraw.
Okay, so you would like to withdraw your name from consideration right now? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. But you should feel very honored that you were nominated.
I'm going to withdraw my name as well.
Yes,
as a rebel rouser and support Commissioner Amandolia.
Okay, so we now have one name on the floor that's been nominated, Austin Amandolia. And without any further ado, if we don't have any other comments, I'll take a vote on that at this time, unless someone else has a comment before we vote.
Commissioner Amandolia, are you okay with that?
I was going to say, I could be really problematic right now and get us back to square one. But
I was trying to move forward before he could say anything, but anyway.
No, I am interested and willing to serve, especially for such a nice little test drive.
Great. It is a perfect test run, to be honest. So if someone's willing to do it, we are more than happy to have you do this, and we'll work with you and help you and support you as much as we can. So. All right, so can I get a so let's see, can I get a vote on Austin Amandolia for to serve as vice chair until September when we would have our next election? I'm not going to call on Amandolia to vote for himself, so Commissioner Baker.
Yes.
Chair Busby.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Cutright.
Yes.
Durkin.
Yes.
Harrod.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
McIver left the meeting. Morgan.
Absolutely.
Okay. Cease.
Yes.
And Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Okay. Passes unanimously. Congratulations, Austin Amandolia. You are the new Vice Chair of Planning Commission.
Thank you all. I really appreciate y'all's confidence.
Yeah, thanks for being willing to serve. I'm going to be out in August and September. You're going to do a great job.
I might have to watch some more meetings to, practice between now and then, but sure.
I look forward to working with you.
The staff will certainly support you any way we can.
Yeah. So that's it for tonight. I was just going to mention between now and our next meeting on August 10th, the the staff, I noted this last month, but I think we're going to be working through July before August to get this worked out. The staff is working to put together a series of comprehensive plan policy working groups on a range of different issues, and would like the Planning Commission to ideally have at least one representative on each of those different commissions. And so we'll be sending out some information. We'll certainly be looking for volunteers if you're interested. But if we don't have enough people to fill the different the different working groups, I'll be working with staff to just reach out to individuals as well. But I hope commissioners will be willing to serve on the different commissions. And again, I don't have the details right in front of me, but there are 5 or 6 different working groups, and it would be fantastic if we had at least one commissioner serving on each of those as that work moves forward to keep the comprehensive plan work moving forward. Anything else for this evening from any other commissioners? All right, well, hearing none, the meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for participating in the vice chair election.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, y'all.